almost 8 years, if not over 8 years. I started as IT support, and I realized I did not like it at all. I didn't like the idea of removing paper jam. I felt I need to do better. So I moved to software engineering. I worked in several industries. I worked in healthcare, where I had the opportunity of doing awesome work for government health uh, facilities. We were doing the health universal health coverage that was funded by the government. So it gave me a lot of interactions with doctors because I was working for a startup that had just gotten a contract from the government. It was the defining point of my career because I got an opportunity of being a business analyst, being an applications engineer, also going for meetings with uh, senior government officials because startups don't hire several people to do different functionalities. So it was very good for me. And then later on, I moved to Safaricom. Safaricom is Kenya's biggest telecommunications company. So at Safaricom, being a bigger company and having been founded longer than the startup, the roles were more defined. So at Safaricom, I worked basically as a backend developer. I was working on Kenya's mobile money platform where I would uh, integrate systems, front end and back end systems, and also write the logic. Then I moved to Microsoft where I met Winner and I worked as a cloud solution architect in Microsoft. I was supporting Kenya, Nigeria, um, later on, so some few South African companies as an application developer. So it was a change for me from development to cloud solution architecture. The reason I made the move is I had previously done an interview at Safaricom for a managerial position. And they told me during the interview that I was too technical for the role. So apparently, while I did the interview, all I talked about was the technology. At no point did I talk about how technology is going to help the business. And that was not a good fit for a manager. So I asked myself, okay, that means I need to change my mindset and I need to learn to merge technology and the business aspect of it. So hence the career, it's not really a career change, but the move from software development to solution architecture, because I felt, okay, this is the best way for me to learn and merge between my skill set, my technology skill set, and the business aspect. And I think it was a good move. Yeah. So then I always wanted to do a PhD. It was part of my career plan all along since I was, I think, in doing my bachelor's. So I started looking out for opportunities to pursue a doctorate. And that's when I landed an opportunity to do a doctorate in Germany, in Bavaria. So I moved to Bavaria in January this year. Then at the University of Bayreuth. Then my supervisor got an opportunity to work at one of the oldest universities in the world. It was established in the 13th century. It's in Heidelberg, that's a different state. And because in Germany, when you are enrolled as a PhD student, it's based on the supervisor. So I had to change states in October. So I changed universities to now the University of Heidelberg, where I'm pursuing a PhD in empirical software engineering, which basically just means data driven. It's all about facts and data. And my research focus is mainly on how data is helping processes and how can we use data to improve how can we use the data we have currently in software systems to improve the processes of software development. So that is my background. That, of course, is not everything in my CV. and my LinkedIn profile. Yes.
Oh, okay. You don't look like you experienced. Let me just put it that way.
Sorry?
You don't look like the amount of experience you've acquired all this while.
That's why sometimes I also I try not to. I have to say it. I always start with how many years of experience I have, which is a good thing for me.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So some house rules. If you are joining the call, please mute your mic except being when you are being asked to speak. If you have question, feel free to drop it in the chat. After the session, we'll go through the chat to get Brenda to respond to all the questions so we don't interrupt her. If you have any question or you have an argument or something you don't agree to when Brenda is presenting, kindly just raise your hand. Or you have a comment or something you want to add on, just raise your hand and you'll be called to speak. Thank you. And Brenda, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll just share my screen and let me know when you can see my presentation. Just a second. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. Maybe if you might want to put it in presentation mode.
Oh, it was in presentation mode. I think it's just taking some time
Oh,
to
okay.
load. Okay. Can you see it now?
Don't tell me you have bad network in Germany.
No, no. You're still not able to see it in presentation mode?
Yeah.
Okay, just a second. Mm, it's interesting. What about now?
Mm.
Okay,
Do you
just
have
a
a
sec.
second screen?
No, I only have one screen. So what do you see now?
We see the whole slide, like from one
Mm-hmm.
to like four.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay,
Maybe you want
let
to
me.
stop sharing and maybe share again.
Yes, just a second.
By the way, what time is it over there?
We are in this. It's the same time as Nigeria, so it's
Oh,
8:10, which works for me.
okay. I think we can
What?
see it better now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So when Wina reached out to me and said I should present about thriving in technology and looking opportunities in scholarships and research, I was like, I don't know what to share. So I'm going to share my experience and some of the things I have learned since I started working as a doctoral researcher. So one of the most important things I've learned so far, and this one not even as a PhD student, but this one from the time I joined the technology field, is that in technology, you never stop learning. Every single time, the technologies I learned when I was in doing my bachelor's degree, by the time I was finishing school, they were changing. The tools, the frameworks were all different. So to survive in the technology industry, you have to constantly learn, have an open mindset, a learning mindset, be willing to change your perception and change your ideology and the way of thinking because new things are constantly coming that are disruptive, that are always challenging how we view things and how we work, especially in technology. So Not so sure if all of you are data scientists, so we also have software engineers, but if you have, I'll speak from a software engineering perspective, you'll notice that right now we no longer write code the way we used to. We have new things like vibe coding, where we have AI agents. You give it prompts and it writes the code for you. So you also have to know how to do prompt engineering, feed the AIs with new prompts and very clear prompts. Because the thing about vibe coding is if your prompt is not clear, the AI will still give you garbage. But this doesn't mean that engineers are no longer required to understand the basics of coding, because if you still don't know the basics, when you have a bug, you will not be able to solve it. Or you have an issue with all the code that the AI system has generated for you, you won't even be able to understand and know how to extend and add new features. So in technology, we have to constantly learn, we have to constantly read new articles. And the beauty we have is that we have the internet. So we can always check online what's being done. We can use AI tools to learn new things. And technology is always changing. And now, since we had chat GPT coming into play, we've seen so many AI generative models coming into place. We have DeepSeek, we have Grok AI, and they have changed how they've not only changed the technology landscape, they've even changed the social sciences, how research is being done, because they've changed the auditing firms and all these industries, even the medical field has changed because of this new technology. So the goal for us as people who want to stay in this industry is to constantly move with the change. We should not be left behind. And we should know that we build systems and we build technology for human beings. So for AI to exist, it needs data. And that's why I know like the TerraFlow is all about data science and AI. So if you don't merge the data, if you don't have the data, how will the models learn? And it also impacts our society. So you can use AI tools. Like I've seen recently, I was looking at an AI innovation, a platform in Kenya, whereby they're calling it prompts. It's for healthcare services. They're helping they're helping pregnant women to get access and get information and chat with a bot in case they have issues. You see, this they've taken what is existing. So they did not reinvent anything new. So they just used what is already in the market and said, okay, we have a problem in Kenya. Mothers or pregnant women are not getting all the help they need because they cannot afford consultation fee to go to the hospitals. So they've partnered with the county government so that the pregnant women, in case they face any challenges, they can be able to chat and get help. So the database is fed from uh, data from experts in the medical field. So the thing about research is not that you have to innovate everything from scratch. It's about learning from what other people have done and finding ways to be able to improve it and make it even better. So we have to be adaptable. We need to learn new things. We need to unlearn our old uh, things that do not really work in this model. And if you're working with something on research, one thing I've come across is that sometimes when I'm working with my data, I have a way of how I modeled it. Like the other day, I was creating a data model, and the way I was thinking about it is completely different from what would bring me closer to solving the solution. And I had to unlearn that so that I can accept this new way of thinking so that I can go forward instead of being stuck to the idea that this worked for me. And one thing I have learned now, which discovered while I was doing my master's back in Kenya, is that technology and industry are working together. though there's still a gap and it's still a challenge, there is still work in silos where I attended a conference 4 months ago where they were saying acad people in academia are just sitting in their offices in the universities and writing things and they're not proving them. And industry guys are busy developing and putting them to the market and they're not documenting them. So there's still a gap, but right now they're bridging the gap. If you work with companies like IBM, like that time my university was collaborating, my professor was collaborating with IBM research to improve solutions and just using their PhD students also as junior researchers to work with industry scientists to be able to improve on solutions. You realize that because if you work in industry, they are constantly coming up with new ideas, new tools, new technologies, and they are always in the process of doing scientific discoveries. So, what they're now doing in universities, like now in Germany, they partner with big tech and some startups to just do research. So the professors and the junior researchers are working with developers and research scientists in these industries to bridge the gap and to innovate. So something we also need to learn in the technology space, especially if you're in industry, is you should be open to collaboration. You should contribute to open source projects on GitHub. It will give you visibility. It will give you an opportunity to learn from other people and to also just improve your ideas. So uh, opportunities are everywhere. And at the same time, if you're not looking for these opportunities, you will not see them. So they don't necessarily announce themselves. So you have to be curious in order to notice these opportunities. You have to learn to ask the right questions. You have to learn to ask yourself, okay, what is it that is of interest to me? And following that curiosity that builds up to come up with solution. So from the fact that if you have a curious mind and you say, okay, yes, you've given me this tool. I want to understand how it works. So I recall a long time ago, when WhatsApp just came to the market, and someone was asking me, "So yes, we have this tool, but how does it really work?" Or when I was working in the telecommunications company, and I was so curious, I wanted to know, okay, yes, so these phone calls when I'm in Nairobi and I'm calling someone who's outside Nairobi in a different town, how is the communication happening? So that's all how research works. Research is about curiosity. It's about, okay, yes, so we have this tool or we have this software process. How am I going to improve this process as it is? So, but before you improve the process, you have to understand what it is. And you have to ask yourself, okay, what can I create with this information that I have? And it's all about collaboration. That's the thing about the research world. Who can I work with this to help me? Because you'll find that whatever you want to work on, okay, of course, we have new ideas that have not been worked on, but most of the times we have ideas that you want to improve on. So you ask yourself, who can help me work on this? And that's why you'll realize if you look at research papers and books that have been published, they always have several authors. So you might find subject matter experts in that field. And the thing about collaboration and asking the right questions is not necessarily just in industry, in research alone. Even in industry, it's important to understand. So let's say if you're hired as a data scientist, your goal is not just to look at, it's to get the raw data and bring insights to the company. So if you're analyzing the financial process, yes, it's important for you to look at the data, but it can also make your life easy if you work with the finance team and also understand it from their human perspective, from a financial perspective. So you're not only bringing in your data science skills, but you're also improving your skill set by understanding what the financial department is doing, and it will help you even come up with better models on how to solve that particular problem. So in everything you do and in everything that you interact with, you should be very curious, even in your community, because the best uh, the best projects that have or innovations, all innovations that have succeeded are the ones that are directly benefiting human beings. So if you're building software and you have the perfect software, but what problem is it solving for the human beings, for the community? If it's not solving a problem, a real world problem, most of the time it will not go anywhere. So be curious, look at problems, look for solutions in what is existing, and look for ways to make what you're looking at even better. So curiosity is key in research and in software engineering and in technology, in data science. If you look at all these innovations that have been made, these people were curious. They wanted to disrupt the society. They asked the questions of what if? Okay, what else can be done? So that's something you should do for your mindset shift. So when it comes to scholarships and research opportunities, we have so many research opportunities, and I noticed something we don't have in Kenya, so I'll speak for Kenya, is that ever since I moved to now, when I moved to Germany, all of a sudden Google sends me notifications of all scholarships and research opportunities and grants open. I get alerts and notifications. So yes, it was good, but in Europe, of course, not outside Europe, because it's being context aware and it's saying, okay, this is your new location. But as someone from Kenya, I looked at it and I felt, okay, this is a disservice to so many people in Kenya who want to come and pursue master's degrees, or they want research grants to just work as researchers, but they don't have the information of where they can get these programs. So some of the common programs we have is like the DAD. This particular program is good, but mostly they fund the social sciences. But few times you'll find them in technical courses, in technical research, but they exist. The Erasmus Mundus scholarship is always a full scholarship, and it's German, but they usually give research across Germany, I think Italy, Spain. It depends with the countries, but it's across Europe. The Chevening scholarship is by the European government, the British government, and it's the most common. And the Fulbright, the Mastercard Foundation, they also offer scholarships. These are for masters and for PhD. And once in a while, I've seen also scholarships for bachelors, but it's now bachelors is not really for research purposes, but still it's an opportunity for people to come study outside their home countries. These are just few. I couldn't list all of them. I've provided links at the end, but these are some of the scholarships that are being provided, and these are some of the big or the most common in Europe. And the list is very few, is very little. And what I noticed also is that the universities also have scholarships, so or funders who are providing scholarships. So if you can also identify a university that you'd like to study in the US or in Canada. I know so many Kenyans go to Australia on scholarships and Norway and all these countries, and even sometimes they go to China and Japan for opportunities. Like the JICA is big on scholarships in Africa. They give African countries. Those are some of the places you can get from the scholarships. So just a tip when you're applying for this scholarship, and research fellowships. The research fellowships, mostly they give something I should mention about the research fellowships. The research fellowships they give mostly people who already have a PhD and they want to do a postdoctoral studies or further their studies. And you'll realize that this also the big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Facebook, they have Meta, they have research departments. So you can also always still do the PhD and not be a professor. It's not the end goal. You can go to industry and work as a researcher. It's all about finding solutions to problems and creating new ideas, sometimes from scratch. So it's also an interesting field. So the thing is, most of the times people think that scholarships are all about perfect grades. So don't get me wrong, the grades are important. So for you to even apply, they always have a minimum requirement. Like I think in Germany is 2.3. So you'll just have to do the conversion. And these days you don't have to work hard. You can use one of the chats. Either you can use ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Grok AI, and let it do the conversion for you and even explain. I know even in the US, from the few people I know who've gone to study either a master's or a PhD there, they also had to do the conversion. So the grades are important, but the reason why they always ask for a motivation letter is because apart from your academic excellence, they want to know uh, what do you have clear goals? Do you have initiative? Are you curious? They want to see how you think. What kind of questions are you exploring? Are you motivated enough to dive deeper? My first week, my professor told me the thing about research is that you have to constantly be used to failure. It's about treating failure as feedback, not the end. So they want to know, are you willing to fail and fail fast and not give up and continue? So that's why they always ask for the motivation later. They want to look for people who have a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, and of course, people who show impact and want to create, who show potential and want to create impact. If out of curiosity, I used to look at because all the times in Kenya, like the DAD scholarships I used to see were all for social sciences. And in the application, in the description in the requirements for you to apply, you had to show what impact you've done in your society to qualify to get that research grant or to get that scholarship. And I couldn't understand at that point, but now it made a lot of sense. Also, to get awards, like I saw an award that was being advertised recently, they told people to nominate themselves for this award, but you have to show what change you've done to your society. And for this award, they are not limiting it to any field of study. It's very interdisciplinary. So whether you used technology to solve a problem or you used you you used art or whatever form or means you used to solve the problem, you qualify for this award. But so the thing is, you have to start small. You can start with hackathons if you've not finished. I used to do hackathons back when I was working at Safaricom. It was a way of us, and I liked what we used to do at Safaricom. In fact, I even joined to be part of the hackathon um, members, and we used to look at problems that our customers are constantly calling the call center for that we have not solved, the challenges the customers were facing that we have not yet implemented. And we would use that for one day to create the solution. And of course, it was not perfect, but it was a prototype. and the best solution would win a prize. And I remember there's a team that was even taken to Dubai. And after they came back, it's not just about winning. It's also about implementing this solution. And what I liked about this idea of the hackathon was that we had to work with the business team. So it was not just technology alone. So now you can imagine we had to collaborate with the product owners because they understand the market, they understand the product. And we also had to work with the call center team, the ones that receives calls from customers, and analyze, okay, which particular project would be so good for us to solve for this hackathon. So we were not creating problems that were out of this world. We were just creating problems that, okay, we work in a telecommunication company. We also offer mobile banking services. So what can we do to improve this current system? You can also look at your current projects that you've done with your teammates or your friends and ask yourself, what can I do to improve on this project? And publish it. And of course, these days, everyone is telling us good things of what they're doing on LinkedIn. So that's a way. And if you write and contribute on GitHub open source projects, it will also give you a plus when you're applying for these scholarships and funding, because they want to see that you're thinking outside the box. You're just not, the only thing you're doing is getting straight A's and you're not contributing to society at all. So, what do you do when you want to get into research? Well, you have to ask the right questions. You have to challenge your mind to test ideas. And I can tell you, research involves a lot of reading. So you have to establish this reading culture so that you also don't start working on something that has been solved. So what do? You look for something and you understand it. That's what I mean by replication. You look for papers, you look for a tool, you look for a framework, you get to be the subject matter expert for that particular tool, for that particular framework, or that for that particular, and you look for research related to that. And you find, okay, have you understood it? Can you explain and articulate to people that, okay, this is what this particular tool, this particular framework is doing? And then you look for solutions of improving it. So some of the useful tools for you can go, you don't even have to go to the library these days. All you have to do is just search online. Google Scholar has the papers for research, papers that have been published, and you can get papers from way back, even in 1995 and earlier, and you also get recent papers. This particular ARXIV, they always have preprint. So these are new, if you want new projects, new papers, new research work that has not yet been published, this is a very good resource. And these days, it has a lot of AI papers. In fact, last week but one, they have set new regulations because people are really publishing a lot of data on large language models, on machine learning, and all aspects of AI. So they have had to set a cap. So if you want papers, you can get there. And since you're doing data science and AI, you can use Kaggle. It's the largest data science community. It has a lot of data sets that you can get an opportunity to interact with, to build models from. And you also get to work with other data scientists who are across the world. So it's not only about you improving your skill set, it's also about you collaborating and establishing links. And one thing I've learned is that the people you meet, especially in an industry perspective, like from work or from school or from conferences, those are the networks you're building. So these networks are very important because if you work with such people, like if you collaborate on such platforms and they notice your skill sets, they can also give you jobs and tell you when they have job opportunities from their companies. And if you're not getting a job opportunity, you're also getting an opportunity to learn. And you're also getting an opportunity to share your knowledge, share your skill set. I know some technology companies that are always keen on asking people to share are they contributing on open source projects. Some of the open source projects we have are like TensorFlow, we have Kubernetes, we have VS Code, we have a lot of games that are open source. You can just start by contributing. They may not accept your contributions immediately, or they may love it and accept it immediately, but it also gives you visibility. The next time you're going for a job opportunity, you'll talk about you contribute to open source projects. If you also want to meet people and do research with them and apply for these scholarships, the fact, especially in the technology industry, the minute you say you contribute in open source projects, of course, it opens uh, doors for you. And a key thing is you should document everything that you learn. The human brain sometimes forgets. You may want to go back and ask yourself, okay, what did I learn here? So it's important to always document what you're learning. And another thing you should do is collaborate, get a mentor. The goal of getting a mentor is not the right word. Sometimes you get lucky and you meet someone and they automatically want to mentor you, but sometimes it's you're not so lucky, so you don't have direct mentorship like that. But one thing about getting a mentor that helps you is that they help you not to make the same mistakes they made. So you're learning from someone who gives you a perspective. So someone who has already walked the path that you're trying to walk, and they help you avoid mistakes, and they help you to stay focused, and they also help you to grow faster. Because good mentors, especially if they're in the field that you want to, your field of interest, they will probably have connections and they will introduce you and link you to these connections to work with. I hope everyone here is young, but if they're also not young, I'm still gonna use this. I read this meme, and the meme said, "Do not do not seek advice from people who are not where you want to be." So I recall when I used that meme and for my own personal journey while I was working at Microsoft. So over lunch hour, I would go sit with the research scientists. I was so lucky that I was working in the Nairobi office and we had the Microsoft Africa Research Institute uh, on this. I used to sit on the eighth floor and they would sit on the no, I sat on the 11th floor and they would sit on the eighth floor. Yes. And I started meeting them for lunch because that's the only time I would go and hang out with them. In fact, one of them was from Nigeria. His name is, oh my God, how can I forget his name? I have forgotten his name. That is so terrible. But he is Nigerian, but he was based out of Kenya. So I told him, just as a joke over lunch hour, I want to do my PhD. I've always wanted to do it. And he told me, okay, go online, look at this site, and constantly apply for the PhD there. And he said, Brenda, so that you don't lose focus and you don't lose direction, I'm going to start calling you Dr. Chiteri. And I would meet him and he would call me Dr. Chiteri. And there are days I would not have applied for any scholarship. And after lunch, I would go back to my desk and apply for one. And he did something even better. Anytime he had presentations with PhD students that he was mentoring, he used to invite me and they would sit there thinking, because he would be like, oh, yes, I'm here with my colleague Brenda. And these guys would think I have a PhD, and I had no PhD. I'd never stepped even in anything or a class related to a PhD or done any research. But he showed me what he's doing. He invited me for the meetings, and it was the push I needed. And also the other PhD students who one of them had done mathematics and he had worked in IBM as a researcher before coming to Microsoft. They really encouraged me to do this. So what I just did was I created a community of the kind of people I want to be like. Because every other time I would tell my fellows, especially my former colleagues who are engineers, they would ask me, Brenda, why do you want to do a PhD? You have a master's. Why do you want to stress yourself for that? But this was something I wanted to do. And what I'm going to tell you today is that don't say because Brenda is doing it, I want to do it. You ask yourself, what do you want to do? So you may not want to do this and say you want to become an applied scientist, and that is fine. It's also a way of research. You don't need to have a PhD. But in life, something I've learned is that get mentors who are in the journey you want to go through so that they can guide you and also have friends and peers and create a community. uh, and your community should be people who push you out of your comfort zone, because as human beings we sometimes need, we already have self drive, but sometimes we also need the push, and we need people who challenge us. So collaborate with people who are doing better than you. And I've already told you, you can look for people doing better than you in programs that are even voluntary and do them. Like I know in Kenya, they always operate these hackathons, and it's so cool. And one thing I like about Nigeria that we don't have in Kenya, and I was having this discussion, is that the thing about Nigeria is that you guys are, it's an African economy. You guys have all these lovely and wonderful startups. So you can collaborate with the startup scene. You can collaborate with Nigerians, and I don't think there's a country that doesn't have Nigerians. We even have Nigerians in Kenya. In fact, one of the big banks, the one I've just talked about, Equity Bank, majority of their senior leaders are from Nigeria. So you can collaborate with them and also collaborate with other colleagues and just create a good community for yourself. Contribute to the open source projects, and always also be willing to mentor and also give to other people, because the thing, when I was in primary school, they used to tell us, if you teach someone maths, because we had this stupid competition. I don't know if it's stupid or it was valid, that because I know the problem, the solution to the problem, I'm not going to share with you, because the minute I teach you, you're going to beat me in class. And we were very competitive. But then our teacher told us, the minute you teach somebody, you understand the concept more. So you can use that as an analogy also, and also just to transform someone's life. So you should build your portfolio. We, in software development, we always had this argument with my colleagues and my former colleagues, and we would be talking about, do I really need to do a certificate? But the thing about a certificate is that it shows proof that you learned something. When I'm unwinding, I like to watch movies and series, and one of the series I was watching recently is called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's Tulsa King. I don't know if Tulsa. So it's about, it's the actor is Sylvester Stallone. He acted Rambo, for those who like to watch action movies. And he said the goal of a university degree is not, okay, I know it's crazy that I'm using a movie analogy, but I liked it. So, and he was telling uh, one of his core, the other actor in that scene, that the goal of the university degree is not just the certificate. It's about proving to somebody that you had, and I'm paraphrasing here, these are not the exact words, but this was the goal, that It's to show that you had the perseverance to sit there for 4 years to complete this. So that's why they always say bachelor's degree. But you've gone through the entire interview process before they asked about your academic qualifications, then they bring it at the end. But in research and in scholarship application, it's mandatory you have to show the academic qualifications at first. But do certificates, do get certifications because they're just proof that you learned something. Um, your projects, the ones you're currently doing for this particular course and even for at work, they are proof that you did something and you created an impact. Showcase all these things on LinkedIn, on Medium, but make sure that you the way you're telling the story, it's not tell a story. Just don't say I know Python. Yes, you know Python, but how did you use Python to solve a problem or to contribute to a project? When you're writing your CV, it's not about the tasks you did. It's about the impact you gave. It's about what challenges you solved. So that's something you need to keep in mind when you're showcasing your achievements on LinkedIn and in any other platform you want. You can even create a blog. So you can also start uh, your research journey from the project you're currently working on. You need to identify a research question in your project. Look at something, explore what you've currently worked on, and ask yourself, okay, what patterns can I see? What problem still remains unsolved? And it doesn't have to just be in what you've worked on. You can also look at your society as in general and ask yourself questions like, okay, what problem, since we are in the technology space, you can say, okay, how can I leverage society, technology to solve this problem that people in my community are going through? And one thing I've learned is that the projects that are for the people always succeed. And Equity Bank, the largest bank in Kenya, did that. What they did is banks already existing in Kenya, but majority of the Kenyans are low income earners. They couldn't afford and they could not even be given their ledger, their balance, at their bank balance or their payments, their pay slips. They earned very little money. And majority of the banks that were there could not bank them. So what Equity did, they changed that narrative and said, okay, we are going to bank the unbanked. So they said, okay, you do not need to have, there was a time in Kenya for you to open a bank account, you needed a referral. So if Winner needed a bank account, he had to get a letter from me if, and that only works if I already am a member and I have an account in that bank. So now you can imagine if you're coming from a family and you're the first person in your family to succeed to even get formal employment or to start a business, you will not have anyone to recommend you. So that means you will not have access to facilities like saving, you will not have access to facilities like loans. So what Equity did, they said, okay, you it doesn't matter how little money you earn. It doesn't matter whether you're a primary, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a salesperson and you sell groceries by the roadside. Just bring your national ID card and we will give you an account and we will enable you to save and facilitate with you with loans. So banks were existing. So they were not creating a bank for the first time. But what did they do? They said, okay, we are going to solve a problem for Kenyans, and Kenyans cannot have, they do not have the resources to, or the financial muscle to open bank accounts in these existing big banks. So that's how they solve the problem. So you can look at the community and ask yourself, what does the community need? And that's the problem that I'm going to solve. And you can collect data through market research, you can collect data through research papers that have been published or through interviewing people. That's a way of doing now research work. And you can now write a short paper, publish in conferences, workshops, and just get feedback from what you have done. So the goal is you stay curious, you continuously learn, treat failure as feedback, not like the end, collaborate with people. And in technology, it's not about speed, it's about direction. So don't focus on moving so fast and completing the project. Are you moving in the right direction? So, and I'm going to leave you with a reflection. So, right now with social media and LinkedIn, sometimes when you go to LinkedIn, you also feel like you're not doing so much. So, in a world full of noise, in a world where trends and pressure is everything, it's important to choose your path and act with clarity. Choose what problems you want to solve, discover what interests you have, and focus on that. And ask yourself, what kind of impact do you want to make in this world? So that's the whole point about research. It's about solving a problem. And the thing is, what my supervisor told me on my first week again is you will fail. So research is about failing and picking yourself up, dusting yourself, and saying, okay, what am I going to learn from my failures and building on that? So identify an opportunity, reach out to a mentor or a peer, and share your project publicly. This is now, I'm pushing you to collaborate if you're not already doing it in open source projects. And always stay curious. Want to know more. Don't. I was told this by a postdoctoral researcher from Cameroon. She told me, and I'm not sure, I did not research to find out if this statement is true, but she said in Cameroon, they say you should never die stupid. And I really liked that. So always be curious. So these are some of the scholarships. I'd shared the presentation with Winner, and I'll also share again. If I think he'll share, you can look at some of them and also look for universities you're interested in, and you'll find the links. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Can we give an applause for Brenda? Thank you so much. This was apps, and I have a couple of questions myself. I'm going to ask on behalf of some shy people on the call.
Okay.
But before we do that, let's take the question from the people that have raised their hand up. So I can see Franklin. Franklin, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, Brenda. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening, Franklin.
Yes, thank you very much for the insights. First of all, I'd like to confess you look different from the flyer. You look much younger in life.
It's I took that picture specifically for LinkedIn so that I look serious.
All right. I want I want to ask if you could shed more light on your journey, your application journey for PhD, the PhD program you are in right now.
My education journey.
Your application journey, like how you
Oh,
successfully have.
application.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So just to find out, do you already have a master's and you want to apply for a PhD, or you want to start from a master's? Franklin?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I want to apply directly for a PhD using a bachelor's.
Okay. 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 So, Winner, do you want me to answer Franklin first, or?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I did is I finished my bachelor's first, then I did my master's in Kenya before applying for the PhD. So in Germany, I know they are very keen on having a master's before applying for the PhD, but I have seen, like, there's a person I know, she's a relative of mine. She didn't graduate her master's, but she had already submitted uh, her master's thesis for dissertation before she applied it, and she was able to get a scholarship. So something I didn't learn until way later is that in Germany, in Europe, basically, not just Germany, they have two kinds of PhD students. There's a way where you come and become a research assistant in a university. So you apply for the position as if you're applying for a job. So if you identify a university, like now the way I'm in the university, Heidelberg University or Bayreuth University or Frankfurt, whichever university you want, even in Netherlands, they do the same thing. You identify the university and you check for career opportunities. They have research assistant positions with a track to become a PhD student. So in that way, you are employed as a research assistant in the department, and you also pursue your PhD at the same time. And the thing is, the PhDs mostly here are research based, so you do not have coursework. But in Kenya and in the US, I know in the US they have, I don't know if it applies to all universities, but the few people I've interacted with, in the US, they have these PhD positions whereby you have to do coursework first before you before you start the research work. But to apply now for this kind of PhD, you apply as if you're applying for your job. So they will ask for a motivation letter, they will ask for your transcripts. That is for both bachelor's and master's. They will call you for an interview. You have, depending on the professor, you can have two interviews or one interview, whereby one interview is for you to critique a paper, they want to vet you, or or it's just an oral interview. That now depends on that particular professor or the university they are hiring from. And the other track is where you're not having teaching requirements. That means you're not a research assistant. So this is the scholarship journey, where you identify, like the scholarships I've told you about, like the Erasmus Mundus. And such scholarships, they always tell you to be already admitted, or you've already been enrolled as a student. So you have to apply to a university, then apply for the funding. So we have that option. So you can choose either to apply for the scholarship, and or you can choose to apply it as a job. So I hope that answered your question. And for applying for a job, please remember you check the universities, and just give me a minute. I want to paste something on the chat.
So I think second part of his question was, which one did you get your scholarship via? Is it via the assistant or via the normal scholarship route?
So I used the one where you apply as if you're applying for a job, which I found way easier, because that meant the professor is already in the university, so the acceptance is easy. The minute I get the professor to accept me, it's automatic. The university is going to enroll me as a student, so I don't have to chase funding and chase I don't have to chase funding and chase a university to accept me. So that was the easiest one. And the one I'm just looking for, because I know there are open opportunities. I wanted to share, I'll share it on the chat. Please make sure I share it before we drop off. It's similar to what I'm currently doing. And they had some opportunities for research, like what I do. So it's research. So the only problem with this is that it's now, you have to, now it's like training you also to be a professor. So you have teaching requirements. You have to supervise, like I have to supervise masters and PhD students. The other one, you just do research, you don't supervise anyone, and you are done. So the workload is less compared to this other one. So let me just send this link. You can all look at it.
All right, Franklin, does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Any other question before I ask my own questions? Okay, while we wait for that, so we don't waste your time, Brenda. The first question I want to ask is, you during your presentation, you talked about having curiosity, having a curious mind. That curiosity is one of the skills that one needs to be able to succeed in this evolving tech industry and tech world. And I know for a fact that this is something I've also tried to make sure that it syncs very in syncs with the intents. I've told them quite a lot of time about having that curious mindset. So the question is, how do one build a curious mindset? Because it's easy to, keep saying, you need to have curious mindset. Curiosity is one of the skills you need as a data scientist. But how do one go about building a curious mindset?
Okay. So you need to ask yourself the question. So if it's a new technology, to build it, yes, we want to learn how to use it. So I use that example of WhatsApp, because when WhatsApp came, everyone was like, oh, there's this new technology. But beyond understanding, beyond just the basic usage of that technology, you need to ask yourself, okay, how is this technology built? So you constantly have to force your mind. I know it's not easy, and that's why I was very clear. I said, look for things that spark your interest. So ask the bigger question of, okay, if it's a new technology, ask yourself, okay, yes, so this technology, this is how it works. Now I know how this technology works. But try to understand more than how it works, and ask yourself, okay, how was it built? What languages are, what is it running on? What platform is it hosted? You have to force your mind, especially if it's not in it. There are people I know who are generally born curious. They will always ask the next question of, when you think you have given them all the details, they'll always have another detail to ask. So if that doesn't come naturally to you, you have to force yourself to ask the next question, to discover the patterns. So it's something, remember I said we have to learn, we have to unlearn, and we have to relearn. So this, if you're not a curious person, if you don't ask more questions, it's something you have to unlearn. And just to be honest, I'm not going to lie to you, you have to force yourself to want to be more interested in it. I was not a curious person. I grew up knowing curiosity killed the cat. So I had to now learn and learn my bad habits. So I am speaking from an experience of someone who, I have to force myself to ask, okay, why does this coffee machine work like this? What is the functionality behind it? Yes. And start with just things that you love, the stupid things that you love, like coffee. Ask yourself, okay, so tell me more about this company. What do they do? Apart from coffee machines, what do they make? That way you build it's about building a culture. Yes.
So thank you very much for that explanation. So it's safe to say if you don't have a curious mind, you need to build it, which is like building a new habit. So let's say you are forming a new hobby, and your new hobby now should be asking question. Don't be an OES member, right? Don't always agree. Don't always execute. Always ask question. Look deep. Look behind the curtain, right? I
Ex-
guess.
exactly. And
So
and that's
yeah.
you're spot on that. That's exactly what you need to do.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much. So if you don't learn anything today, every one of you on the call needs to start building that habit of asking questions. Sometimes it can be annoying for people that are outside the space that we are in. So the space that we are in requires curiosity, and you need to develop that mindset. So, but if you go outside this space and you exhibit that curiosity or curiousness, you show that mindset, right, towards other people in other spaces. It could be something that they won't take lightly or they might not even appreciate it. But for the sake of the environment and the space that you are in, you need to build that curious mindset. So today, start asking questions, even though they find it annoying. Whoever finds it annoying, at the end of the day, you know the goal that you are chasing, right? You know the outcome that you're expecting, right? So build that habit. The second question I want to ask is, I know during the course of this internship, this is like the third month into the internship, and I know a lot of interns have faced different challenges. Some that comes to my DM, they rant on how they are not able to figure out a problem, they're not able to solve a task and things like that. And what I've sensed is that fear of failure, of which I've also tried to trace several times, that error code should be your body, because I believe you learn the most from your failures. So, but how do one overcome the fear of failure? Right? If you are someone that the Brenda, you can attest to this on the Scrum calls. When you see red is a red flag when they are doing ACR reviews and stuff like that, right? So how do one overcome that fear of that fear of failure, error message, things like that? How do one overcome fear of failure in general?
Well, so what I've learned from my own failures in life is that I when I fail, I really beat myself up. I don't like failing. I start asking myself, oh my God, Brenda, are we getting dumber? You used to be smarter when you were younger. But then I realized that's not the case. It's in my mind. So what I do, talk to myself. I have to talk to myself and ask myself, okay, yes, I fail here. So what am I learning? I'm learning that I'm trying something new. So I have to be kind to myself and say, okay, this is something new I'm learning. I have never done it. That's why I am not getting it in the first try. So what do I do? So I will use the experience. When I joined Microsoft, Winner had joined before me. And what did I do? Every Friday, I think it was every Friday, Winner and I had a call, and he would tell me, and he would train me, and he would teach me, and he shared with me links. And that made me learn better. So I didn't sit down and say, I know everything. In fact, I remember I told Winner, I am new to Azure, and you know more than me in Azure. So I had to learn from him. And not only Winner, I also had to learn from other people. We had engineers from all over. And now when I started doing research, and my supervisor would ask me things, and I would be like, oh my God, what the hell is this? I didn't even think about it. And I'm never afraid and ashamed to say, I don't know, but I am willing to learn. So you need to accept that when you're failing, it means you're trying something new. And you need to be kind to yourself, because this is now not technology, this is psychology. When you tell your mind that you're not good enough, it will register you're not good enough. So handle the failures as a stepping stone, a learning, and ask your colleagues. So don't sit in a silo and say, I'll be stupid. We have this saying that it's let me be stupid now when I'm asking this question, but when I'm done, I won't know. If Franklin had not asked the question, I would not have shared that link with those open positions today because when I was creating that presentation, I had not seen that link. But you see, now I've been able to tell him how I applied. He would have left the call thinking I applied for scholarship, which was not the case. So always do not be afraid to ask. Even if people will laugh at you, and no matter what you do in life, people will always have something negative to say. So if you work with that mindset, it will be important for you.
Thank you. I see Gafar hand has been off for a while. Let me allow him to ask because I still have like two more questions before I hand it over to any other person that wants to ask. But Gafar, go on.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Everyone. Yeah. Yes, I quickly want to ask. You mentioned applying as a research assistant. Sounds is it the same thing as sending cold emails to your supervisor and then writing what's it called? Writing a proposal and all of that. Is it the same route?
No, so that's also another route. You can say, okay, I have looked at your profile. I want to work with you, and you can apply it that way. But here, like the link I've sent, the supervisor is already advertising for positions, and most of them you'll find they're chairs of departments. So they are already looking for researchers, and sometimes they are looking for 2 or 3 or even more researchers in their area of interest. And they will always have, if you check their blogs or the website, they will show you what their areas of interest is. So this one, it's like you're applying for a job. So it's different because in this case, the researcher is already looking for interest. Sometimes the other way, you can just find a professor and find that they have an area of interest you like and apply even if they don't have a position, and they can accept you as a candidate. But in this case, you have to find funding. But the way I applied, when you get hired, you're automatically getting hired as a research assistant. So you do not need funding because, like, now the university pays you. So for your upkeep and for your sustenance, you are being funded by the university. So you don't need a scholarship per se. But this other one, if they have such an opportunity, of course, the professor will merge you and add you to that. Uh, or they would advise you to get a scholarship. So it's slightly different, but you're still sending it to the professor, and the professor has to accept you. So they have some similarity, but this other one is a job. Is that clear, Gafar?
Thank you, but can I quickly add one more question? Like,
Yes,
so
go
for
ahead.
that kind of for that kind of application where you apply
Mhm.
for a job, so after the PhD program, does your contract with the university stop, or the appointment is still very much in place? And then what happens
No.
after?
So this particular, because you're applying as a research assistant, they give you for a duration for that PhD. So in fact, if you don't finish your PhD in time and your contract elapses, you will have no choice but now to look for other ways to sustain your livelihood there. So it's a way to ensure, it's like an internship opportunity. I used to ask myself when I was an intern, why can't they just give me the job? Then they told me, if we give you the job, that means nobody else will have this internship opportunity. So it's a way of ensuring researchers can have funds as they are pursuing their PhD. So they are tied, they are married together. So, and if you get this opportunity, you cannot say that I don't want to do the teaching requirements. Now, that is the catch, because you have to do both. You have to supervise students. You have to, some professors will tell you to teach, others will tell you not to teach. So it depends now with the personality. But they are married to they are tied to the hip. So you, if you're lucky, you have to push yourself and finish. So it's a contract, not full-time position. Is that clear? And the
Yes,
contract is
thank you.
only for the duration of your PhD, or sometimes even less. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I saw Julius's hand was up first.
Yeah, Julius, can you go on?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Julius.
Yeah, yes. The other time that you were trying to explain something, I couldn't hear you very well. I think probably because of the unstable network. So,
Mhm,
concerning these graduates, what is it called? These positions that you just talked about, like
mhm,
for a while now, I think for like a month now, I've been seeing stuff like that on X and on LinkedIn. I
mhm,
see professors from schools. They say they are advertising for social position to Zoom with them maybe in the next fall or something. So
mhm.
my question is now that in that kind of situation, most times I used to be worried that does it mean that does it mean they're advertising for people currently in the in that school, or just like what you said, you apply for the position, or am I going to apply for the school first and then maybe I'll get the job? I don't know. I don't really get that part. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
So that's what I was explaining. So for these ones where they are advertising for a research assistant position, you are applying for the job, then you
Yeah.
will automatically be enrolled, because when the supervisor is giving you the position as a research assistant in there, and they will constantly say in their group, in their working group, that means they have already vetted your qualifications, and also with the human resource department, that you also qualify for that PhD position if it's the PhD you're applying for. But if you're just applying for a scholarship, you'll find most scholarships like the DAD scholarship, or if they're not tied, some scholarships are tied to the university. They'll tell you, okay, this particular scholarship is being offered by this university. But we also have scholarships that are not tied to the university. And I've seen that in so many of the UK. When I was trying to apply for scholarships in the UK, they kept saying, okay, you apply for the scholarship, we give you the funding, but before you apply for the scholarship, you have to show us proof of admission in a university. So in that case, they're just offering you the scholarship, and you'll find that the scholarship is not being run by the university. Like the DAD scholarship is not run by any university. It's run by different organizations, even the Erasmus Mundus or the Bill Gates Foundations. They are different. So they need you to prove that, okay, I'm enrolled as a PhD student. Now I need funding. So those you have to apply 2 times. But this research assistant position, the university is the one funding you. So that's why you are an employee of the university, and at the same time, you are pursuing the PhD in the university. And please, something that should be clear, for the research assistant positions, they only do it for PhDs. For masters, you have to apply for a scholarship. So if you're lucky and you find the scholarship is just limited to that university, the application will just be for that university. If not, you'll have to apply, get enrollment, and they'll tell you the list of eligible universities. And also then after enrollment, apply for the scholarships. And also be very careful while applying for scholarships. We have full scholarships and we have partial scholarships. Partial scholarships, that means they only give you funding up to a certain level, and you have to find funds for yourself. So something you need to know about Germany, in most states, like in Bavaria, Bavaria is where Munich is, university education is free. So even if you get partial funding, you can still come and look for a student job because they all companies have these student jobs and you'll manage to survive. So that's a plus. At least because if you're looking at it, you only pay for, I think, administration and just 164 euros. That's not even my bachelor's. Even my bachelor's in Kenya was way more expensive than that. So that's just registration and a few admin services. So that's something you should look for. The only challenge with Germany is some courses are taught in German. So, but most technology courses, and luckily for us, we're in the technology space, are English, but still for bachelor's, it's in German. So that's also something you need to know because it might mean you have to learn the language first. So those are some of the areas you have to be keen on. So, Julius, I hope I answered you clearly now.
Yes,
Or
yes,
do you
you
still
answer
have
very
a
clearly. But
question?
sorry, quick one. Quick one. Yes, just quick one.
Mhm.
Those offers, does it mean that someone that only have maybe BSc can apply, or is it like MSc you apply for PhD, then BSc apply for MSc, or BSc can always apply for maybe both?
So the Germans are rigid. So they want you to have a
Okay.
master's before you apply for a PhD. I know in the US, you can apply for a PhD straight without a master's. But for the two universities I've had experience in here, I notice, and also in Sweden, because I've met a researcher from Sweden, and they are a bit strict. They say you need to have a master's before you apply for a PhD. So, but the US, I know with a BSc you can apply for a PhD, but to be honest, I don't know about all universities in Germany. So that's something maybe I also need to
Yeah.
find out more. But I know in the US you can apply for the
Yeah,
PhD without an MSc. I don't
yeah.
know
Let me
about
also
Canada, Winner.
Yeah, let me maybe chip in here. So, Julius, most of those I've also seen a lot of them. Most of those posts normally there is a link to the application form, and once you click on it, you see requirements, right? So it depends on the school, it depends on the professor, it depends on the location. Some they sponsor you totally to even relocate and order. Some they might even have a requirement that it has to be someone that is in the country. So you have to probably click on the links and go read up the requirement for
Mhm.
application. That will give you more information in terms of, okay, what are the requirements? Do you need to have a master's first? Do you need to have 2.1 or 2.3 or 2.4, whichever one? Do they require language evaluation? Do they require credential evaluation? Things like that. A lot of stuff you need to know, and these are unique to each individual application. So you need to go check out the requirement for that particular application to get more details on it.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, okay.
All right. Franklin,
Okay. My question is specific to Germany. So, Ms. Brenda, did you learn the German language before you applied?
No, in fact, I am only learning it so that I can order coffee in the not for class. So that is something I was very clear with the supervisor. I asked if German is mandatory for his group, and he said no. And it's something they're trying to change, but you'll notice not all universities, some university will say they want Germany, they want you to know the language. So if you know, and especially for people who want to, as I've said, bachelors, I know they do it still in German. So it's a bit hard if you're doing a bachelor's. Some master's courses, they are both English and German, and most of the time, like in the space of artificial intelligence, from the professors I've interacted with, even if it's they're doing it in German, the modules, they always tell the students to write it in English. And most universities are now trying to move because they're also realizing that even software and everything, all the documentations are in English. So there's that plus. But it's, as Wina has just said, it's something you need to make sure you check in the requirements. Because for the beauty about the applications in German, when they want Germans, they will put the requirement, everything, even the advertisement will be in German. There will be no English version. So you don't even bother to translate it. And they'll always say their German is a requirement or no German, English is a requirement. So they always put the language requirement in the application for all, even if it's a scholarship, the language requirement will be there. Yeah. And that applies to France also. If they want you to speak French, they will say their French is a requirement. If it's not, they'll tell you English is a requirement. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarity. Also, is it possible for us to get your LinkedIn just in case?
Yeah,
Yes.
just post your LinkedIn URL in the chat, and you guys should go follow her. I know Brenda is quite busy with her work, but feel free to always reach out to her. This is the benefit of the community. Now you have access to people like Brenda, right? But don't disturb her too much, though. So, last question before I allow you. Yeah, you want to say something, Brenda?
I also don't post so much on my LinkedIn. So I don't even post really. So there's nothing really interesting in my LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Yes.
think that really matters. Yeah, just I know we are over time, and good questions are coming in, right? But last question before we call it a day is, I know one of the key things you talked about in terms of striving in tech is mentorship. And me being in the position where I am, where I've gotten a lot of requests on mentorship, people that wants me to mentor them and all. One thing is constant across so many of them, not all, but quite a lot of them, is they don't understand the impact of mentorship. Like, what impact do they want to derive from the mentorship they are coming up, they are looking for? Take, for example, I want you to mentor me. Just because we've talked about mentorship today, I few people might reach out and say, "Oh, Brenda, I want you to be my mentor." But they've not sat down to understand, okay, what do I want to get out of this mentorship, right? What is the end goal out of this for this mentorship that I'm looking for? So because there is no foundation laid and there is no effort put into understanding what you require, what outcome you expect, the mentorship stuff is not impactful, right? It becomes like a relationship, or if I can even call it a relationship, right? It become chaos, right? It become chaotic. So the question is, how do we make mentorship impactful? How do one leverage it for growth, especially for people that will be seeking for mentorship? What are those groundwork you need to do, right, before you go out to say, oh, I'm looking for a mentor? Because some people want you to uh hold them by the hands and hold them on everything, right? And I know when it comes to mentorship, there are technical mentors, there are other level of mentorship, right? But how do they configure their mindset in a way that they understand what an internship, what a mentorship should be, in a way that once they are looking for mentor, they know the right mentor to look for, and also when they engage in that mentorship, at the end of the day, the mentorship will be impactful.
Okay, so from my own personal experience, and that's why I gave a disclaimer that sometimes you don't have to look for mentors and say, okay, I am looking for a mentor. I don't think that's the right way. Some mentorships happen. You meet people who are where you want to be and say, okay, so like let's say if you want to do your PhD. You can say, okay, Brenda is doing her PhD, so maybe I can ask her for insights. But you might find that our research areas are different. So as Wina is saying, you may look at it from an aspect of, okay, I just want to have Brenda's guidance on how to apply and secure it. The minute you get that, you may ask about the challenges, but you'll find out that, okay, since our research areas are not the same, I might not be the best person to guide you from that end. So you have to get somebody else to guide you going on from that end. You may want mentorship from a career perspective. Let's say you want to become a C-suite in a technology company or in any other company. You would need to ask somebody who's already in that track or going towards that direction. Because in this time, the kind of mentorship you're looking for is how am I going to become an executive member? Or you want to have your own company. So if you want to come up with a startup on your own, the best person to ask is someone who has run that startup. So that's the end goal you have. So, and mentorship from my perception, I've seen people who've had one mentor for life. I've had to change my mentors as my career is changing and my career is evolving. There was a time my mentor was in the banking sector, not even in technology. They would do innovations, but not in technology. But at that particular time, I was starting out in my career. I needed to find out how the corporate world exists. And this person was giving me guidance, not in technology, but generally how to navigate corporate and private sector. So you see, the kind of mentorship I was getting there was not really what to do technologically. When I now changed focus from technology to now doing research, now I don't have a mentor, but I work with my supervisor whose research focus and my research focus are same. But you realize from my supervisor, I'm only benefiting in terms of research work and what mistakes he made. So the kind of mentorship I'm getting here is very different. You also have personal mentorship for your personal well-being, all-rounded who want to check on your career, on your personal well-being, on your social well-being, and that's
Huh?
perfect. So
The one
you
that I'm
have
using
to,
now, it
I
needs
think somebody
two
needs
pages.
to, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
sorry, I've muted the person.
Thank you. So you have to ask yourself, what goal are you getting? So if you've seen, because Winner is an AI engineer and that's the direction you want to go to, you can get guidance from him in terms of that and ask him, okay, this is what steps can I get? What necessarily? Mentorship doesn't mean necessarily being extremely handheld. And that's why I was saying sometimes also working with peers. I talked about mentorship and I talked about collaborating with peers. They also put you in check and they push you, especially when your mentor is not available, if you don't have that mentor. So that's my opinion on mentorship, and that's what worked for me. So I've never had like one mentor for everything. It depends with the stage I am in my career journey.
Yeah, thank you very much. And listening to you, one thing was constant, which is the expectation, the outcome, right? You had the results in your head, right? What you want to achieve from that mentorship. So what I've observed is many people enter into mentorship blindly, right? They are blind. They don't sit down to ask themselves, why do I even need this mentorship? What exactly do I want to get out of this mentorship? So for you to be able to, for me, I believe, which is in alignment with what you just said, for me, I believe for you to get the maximum impact of every mentorship is you need to outline what are those outcomes you expect from that mentorship. What do you need winner to do for you? What ABCD do you need winner to do for you that will help you succeed, either career-wise, technical-wise, decision-making wise, whichever way it is. And again, I totally agree with you. One mentor shouldn't be is not enough. You can have, I think, one mentor that can last a lifetime could be a spiritual mentor, right? But as outside that, every other mentor is expendable because as your career evolve, which I believe everyone, except you are sitting in your comfort zone. As long as you're not sitting in your comfort zone and you're in this tech industry, your career will definitely evolve. Like you will do different things, you will try different things, which means you have to try different mentors. And thank you so much, Brenda. I really appreciate your time. This has been very, very insightful, and I know on behalf of the interns, we want to appreciate you for your time. And if they reach out, please um, find some time in your space to respond to them. All of them here have a research work, right?
So,
And
so
guys, sorry.
uh, before you just finish, so just
Mm,
sometimes I get so many I'm LinkedIn requests. So before you send it, just drop me a message and say you how 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 we met virtually. Because I know not all of you asked questions. So in case I can't remember your name, it will be just good to say uh, you gave us the talk about this session so that I can also know how we interacted or how you know me. It will make life
sure.
easy.
It's simple. Before you send that request, in that while you are even sending that request, I know LinkedIn has that feature where you send a note with your request. Just put this is also person from DataraFlow. We had a session with you, blah blah blah. That will help her understand who
Actually,
is
I
connecting.
think if they just say they are from DataraFlow, it doesn't have to be long. I will know who they are. So it
Good.
will just keep it short. Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, and we hope to bring you on board sometime again.
Definitely looking forward. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And for all that joined, thank you for joining the call. I hope this was insightful for you too.